Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So as you guys know, we do have the Champions Chess Tour final going on right now. And so I have the game Wesley So versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. And this is the first game that they played in their match. As you guys probably know, each player is playing each of the other players kind of in an initial round. And then we're going to kind of see who goes on after that. But this is the first game they played. So all of my people in the Philippines, I will say Maraming Salamat. Anybody who is coming from France or who does speak French, I will say Merci beaucoup. And if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look, see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move D4, a very, very sound opening, Queen's Pawn. We got Knight to F6, so we start the Indian game. We got C4, and then we do have the move G6. And this is all very standard stuff. You pretty much have two super main moves, G6 and E6. When you are playing this way, we do see Knight to C3, and then we do see D5, and this is the Grunfeld defense, one of the hyper-modern openings, and I'll get to that in a second. We got pawn taking D5, knight taking D5, we got E4, so this is all very standard Grunfeld play. Definitely the top moves that you're going to see. We got E4, knight takes C3, and then pawn takes C3. And basically, when I mentioned it being a hyper-modern opening, there are two schools of thoughts. There's a classical school, and then there's a hyper-modern school. The classical school, you want to, take up the center with as many pawns as possible. The hyper-modern school is basically saying, forget all of that. I can go ahead and control the center from afar. And so normally you see Fee and Kettle bishops. There's usually a mix between the two these days, but we do see bishop to G5. We got bishop to C4. What better square to put your bishop on than C4, attacking this nice tender spot. And then we do see, I know you guys see it. You're like, hey, man, I know this move is coming. C5. Absolutely correct. There's been so many D4, D5 games that I've covered where C5 is the most perfect move to try to undermine White's center. You have to attack the center in some kind of way. I mean, you've given White this nice, beautiful center, and you have to undo it. So that's always the plan. We do see knight to E2. We got castles by Black. We see bishop to E3, just trying to reinforce that point that Black is hitting. We do see knight to C6. So you see that basically what Black is doing is it's ganging up on your center with C5 and then knight to C6. Trying to get rid of it, right? We do see castles by White. We got bishop to G4. And I mean, this isn't a problem. We just play F3. You're like, hey, man, what's your bishop doing there? Exactly. Move it. Bishop to D7. We see rook over to B1. I mean, this is a cute little move. I mean, you are using this half-open B file to try to see if you can munch on some pawns. But we do see a nice counterattack with rook to C8. And in some positions, you have to be kind of careful because this bishop is undefended. So, I mean, you definitely don't want, pieces to start kind of moving out of the way and then your bishop is hung out to dry. So we do see the bishop just dropping back to D3, and then we do see queen to C7, and now queen has just protected, this B7 pawn. So everything is everything. We got queen up to D2. Now, both players have gotten their rooks connected. Everything is good to go. We do see rook F to D8, and then we see the novelty of the game, bishop to F4. And I mean, it might seem kind of great. You're like, hey, man, I'm hitting this queen. The queen, needs to try to move somewhere. You only really have this square, right? Absolutely not. Maxime says, bro, I'm going to put E5 in your face. And you're kind of in a little bit of a situation. You don't really want to move this pawn because you are going to be, discovering, this rook's wrath on your queen. So, I mean, you kind of have to try to do something else. So we do see bishop to G5. And then we actually see the very accurate but very bold. Let me just tap this down touch. Okay. The very accurate but very bold pawn takes D4. Now, I know some of you guys are sitting there looking like, wait a minute, bro. Isn't bishop G5 attacking my rook on D8? It absolutely is. Does Maxime Vachier-Lagrave care about that? Absolutely not. We're going to take stock in a minute. But you got bishop taking D8, rook taking D8, and then we have some trades in the center. Pawn takes D4, knight takes D4, knight takes D4, bishop takes D4, check. King slides over to H1. And like I said, we need to take some stock. Okay. Yes, Black has given up their exchange. White has both of their rooks, but you have to kind of see the compensation that Black actually has. They actually have full compensation for the exchange. Number one, they have double bishops. So that is definitely a strength that Black has. They also have one extra pawn. So that's definitely something else that they have. Also, this bishop is actually stuck in the center of the board, and it is plugging up the entire position. So yes, white does have the double rooks, but you know, they don't really have a great way to really kind of get things as rolling. A last thing, you know, black has 3 pawns on this queen side against 1 pawn, so they definitely have a lot of potential to create passed pawns. So that is definitely the way we have to evaluate this, even though white, you know, black has given up the exchange. You know, they're playing actually fairly well by this point. You know, it's not like it's winning, but I mean, you know, it's definitely not your typical, you know, I gave the exchange and now I'm going to lose. So we got bishop to e6, improving that bishop. We got the move f4. Wesley So was like, bro, if I sit here and do nothing, I'm just going to lose, bro. I got to do something, man. So, you know, we're looking at a possible f5 pawn push type situation. We do see king to h8. You know, Maxime is understanding that, hey, man, this f5 move might be a little bit, you know, strong. And then also f5, f6 might come. And, I mean, then we got a little something to worry about. So, you know, he just sidesteps all of that. And then we actually see Wesley So do the same thing. He's not sidestepping, you know, any mate threats. But, you know, anytime you have a heavy piece against your queen or your king, usually it's a good idea to kind of sidestep that. Also, what we're doing is we're adding a little bit more to this f5 pawn push one day. We got queen over to e7. Bishop goes to c4. You know, bishop trades are going to kind of favor white just a little bit because, like I said, those double bishops are actually really strong. So it's definitely in white's interest to try to get one of those sets of bishops off the board. We do see b6. You know, black is not wanting to initiate a trade. We got a4. King goes to g7. And then we do see bishop taking e6. Queen taking e6. So you see a little bit of the pressure from black has come off the board a little bit. We do see the move a5 trying to rip this, you know, position over here on the queen side. We got queen to c6. We got the move f5. I will say this, though, with the bishop not on e6, f5 doesn't really come with as much oomph. It's not bad, but I mean, everything, for all intents and purposes, is fairly even. And then we do actually see a very calm move by Maxime. He just plays rook to d7. He basically says, bro, I'm not changing nothing. I'm just going to simply make sure I defend all of my stuff. It's never a bad idea to defend your 7th rank. You know, the rook isn't doing a whole lot on this 8th rank. So, I mean, bring it down here and, you know, we're going to be good to go. We got pawn taking b6, pawn taking b6. And then we actually do have a really nice move by Wesley So. And because you're noticing, like I said before, that you do have a majority of pawns, you really don't have anything holding these pawns back on the queen side now. So, you know, you really kind of have to make sure that they're not moving and causing problems. So the queen and the rook are just kind of teaming up to make sure that, you know, this b5 pawn push doesn't come super successfully. We do see the queen going to c7. And then we actually see a move in the position is h3. Now, I will say this. White definitely had a slight advantage up to this point. h3, it's not that it's a really horrible move, but I will tell you something that it does do. If you notice, black has a dark square bishop, right? So, you don't generally want to maximize the influence of that particular bishop with the queen around your king. So, g3, probably would have been a little bit something better to play, just to make sure that you kind of have access to these light squares, because as you can see, black really doesn't have a good access to these dark squares because of all of the control that black has. So you've kind of increased the power of that dark square bishop slightly. The rook does come to d6. We see rook up to f3 operating on light squares. We do see the queen sliding over to e7. We see rook b to f1. And something might kind of have to give, even though you have defended really well if you are black. You got the rook, you got the bishop, you got the queen, you got the king. So there really isn't like an attack that's going to be going on the f6 point. So, I mean, you're good to go. But to try to keep things as close as possible, so that these rooks don't really just crazy come to life, we do see the move g5. This not forces the rook, but it's a very good move to make, because you definitely don't want to be dropping any pawns. So we do see rook to e1, and we see the move g4. And this actually brings us to a critical point in the game. We do see rook sliding over to g3. And it kind of makes you think, was this g4 move really that great? Because, I mean, bam. So we have actually reached a point in the game. There is a very specific way that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave needs to play this position. So if you want to pause the video and try to guess what move he needed to find here, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So I actually think, in all honesty, this move is going to be almost impossible to find. It's definitely not the first move that I think comes to anybody's mind. And it really, really just looks like a bad move. I'll be honest with you. It's really beautiful, but it does look like a questionable move. Because I just told you guys before, I mean, like this G4 pawn is pinned. I mean, it's against the king. So, like, you know, you have to kind of do something. So probably I think a majority of people are going to say H5. But after some calculation, Maxime plays queen to H4. Now, I know. You're sitting there thinking, wait a minute, queen H4? Like, doesn't that just drop my queen? Because rook takes G4. It's actually beautiful because it does. But there is a very real reason why you want to drop your queen if you're black. Let's go into the variation and look. Rook takes G4 with check. My queen is about to be gone. Like, because you literally just moved into that, right? Well, don't fear not. Queen takes G4 and you absolutely cannot take this queen back. Why? Pawn takes G4 and then rook to H6 is checkmate. Because the bishop is controlling the only flight square that black has. So, even though it's not that bad of a situation, this H3 move in this scenario would definitely come back to haunt you. So, don't get checkmated, man, please. Always be careful, like when it seems like your opponent dropped one of their pieces or their queen, it might be a trap. So we do not see that in this position. We actually see Wesley So go queen to D3, recognizing, saying, hey, man, I know that you got, you got something going on. You got some traps, and you are also attacking this rook behind this rook. So you really don't want to move, either of your rooks. We do see the move H5. Now, this is definitely defending G4 because you can't just capture now. We do see the move E5. Bishop takes E5. And you actually kind of have some problems. Like, it has really just taken a complete turn for the worse here. This bishop has backed up and now is double attacking this rook along with this queen. And you have also discovered an attack on this queen. So this is a very unfavorable position for white to actually be in. We see the move F6 with check, and this is an absolute desperado move. But after we see queen taking F6, it is in this position that Wesley So resigns the game. Basically, just to kind of nutshell it for you real quick, you see that black has 3 pawns to, white's 2 pawns. So that is one of the major reasons that Wesley So resigns the game. There isn't really a whole lot you can really muster in this position. And like I said, everything is protected. You got the queen protecting the rook. Everything's protecting this piece, and you really don't have a great way to stop both of these pawns from marching down the board. You definitely can put like a rook and a queen behind it and then really start forcing these through with this bishop on this diagonal. So even if you give up a rook for a bishop, you're still going to be in an endgame with rooks where you are down 3 entire pawns. And those endgames really just aren't winnable. There's too much material. So that is that. Of course, all my people in the Philippines, it is afternoon. Magandang hapon. Mag-lunch na tayo, because it is lunchtime. Mabuting pagbati. Masaya ko makita kang muli. I appreciate seeing you guys very much again. Anybody who is coming from France, I will say, let me see. Comment ça va? Comment allez-vous? Merci beaucoup, mes amis. Ma meilleure pour toi. Let me see. What is the other thing I'm going to say? Oh, yeah. Ça me fait plaisir de te voir. It's very nice to see you guys again. But I appreciate everybody from around the world very much, and I'll see you guys next time.